In this video, I will explain the source code to load data from CSV file and explain the source code to implement student login system. And in this application, we are loading student data and books data directly from CSV file, comma separated value file. And as you know, in university, there might be thousands of students and thousands of books in the library. So adding these information in the application one by one is very inefficient. It's very boring job. So I consider myself it's better to read the data directly from CSV file. And let's consider this CSV file as our database came from another third party application. For example, let's say student data came from student management and books data came from directly from vendor. And these are our sample data. Let me show you in my notepad. And this is student data. We have only 4 columns. I'm using very little information to make it simple. And for books data, we have 4 columns. And these student data is stored in student profile structure variable in C, and books data is stored in books structure variable in C. Let me show you in code blocks here. Here in utility, you can find the structure definition. So this is the student profile structure. We have exactly 4 elements, same as our student data. So student ID, first name, last name, and department. Here also student ID, first name, last name, and faculty. Faculty and department is same. Same. And similarly for books, there are 7 elements. First one is book ID, title, author, genre, year, stock count, and self number. Okay, so now let me go back to main function. First, I will explain student login system. We have main menu here. Inside main menu, student will choose option S to log in as a student. And for option S, we call student access function. Inside student access function, we request user to provide student ID, and we pass this student ID inside find student ID function. If student ID exists in the system, then this function will return value 1, which is true. It means student ID exists in the system, and we call student menu function. And this is the start of student process. And here we are not asking user to provide password because we are loading student data from CSV file, and we do not allow user to modify that student record. So we are asking only student ID to verify the student details. And let's go to find student ID function. This function is written under user menu header file. So here inside find student ID, again, we are calling get student ID function by passing student ID provided by the user, and also student profile structure variable. And this my profile, this is the student profile structure variable. This is declared at the top, and it is global variable. And if this function return value 1, then it means student ID exists in the system. And this will complete the student login system. But the get student ID function is very complex, and here we actually read the data from the CSV file, and it is written under load csv data.h. I will explain it in details. Let me run the application first. Option S 10001. So this is the student menu. Here at the corner, you can see there is a student information, full name, student ID, and the faculty. And this value is coming from this my profile structure variable. Actually, this get student ID function will find the student ID and read the student details and assign the value into this variable. And we are passing this value inside here, inside print student welcome message function. And this function is declared under utility.h here. Here in this function, we are displaying that student information at the top left corner. I hope you understood the purpose of this my profile structure variable. Let me close this. Now let me go to load CSV data header file. Here I have written source code to load both books data and student data. And also I have written a function to write books data into CSV file. Now let me start from the beginning. And this one is this variable is to define the size of the character array to load a line of the data. For example, here we will load data line by line. So the whole line will be loaded into a character array, and this constant variable will define the size of that character array. And this one is to define number of column in a student data, and this one is to define number of column in books data. So here we are using 4 column in student data and 7 column in books data. If you are using more than 4 or less than 4, then you have to adjust this value. Similarly for books column number also. And this fourth one is max error num, and this one is defined to load maximum number of error in a data. And while loading data, we count the error. And if number of error reach this value, then we stop loading data. And this bk underscore row underscore norm variable is mostly used in second part. I mean, the next part I will explain at that time. And these four variable pass, fail, false true, these are simply a flag variable. And stu data file is to point student data, and bk underscore data file is to point book data, and the last one is to point temporary books data file. And this four constant variable is used to represent the idea of array to load student data. So each student column will be loaded into S field array, and these constant variable will represent the index of this array. The first one will be ID, and second one will be first name, and last one, I mean, third one will be last name, and the last will be faculty. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And similarly, these constant variable will represent the array of loading books data. The name of the array is L-feeds, I think. And the first one is book ID, title, author, genre, year, stock count, and self number from 0 to 6. Now I will explain get student ID function. Here, this function has two parameter. The first one is student ID provided by the user, and the second one is structure variable where we copy the student information. And this line is to define file pointer fps, and this will define the uh, array of character to load student column data. And this variable is to count error. And here we open the student data file in read mode, and fps is a file pointer. If fps file pointer is null, it means we are having trouble to open the file, and we simply return fail. And this line is to define a character array of a size buffer underscore size. And this one is to count a row number of the data. I simply use long data type. You can use integer, it doesn't matter. And it matters, but like the integer data type will support definitely a couple of thousands of data. So like for us, integer or long, it doesn't matter. And here inside the while loop, I'm using FEF function. It is a C function. This function will loop through the file line by line. So each time it will load the line into this file pointer fps. And let's say when it reaches the end of the file, it will return true value. And if this value is true, then whole value will be false, and while loop will end. And in this line, we load whole line into in buffer character array here. And this line will skip the header file. So for example, in our data, we have header data as well. And this will skip that header line, and this will skip empty line. And here we use another function, load stu values. This function will actually split the line data into column. So here we have two parameter. The first one will be in buffer, and second one is as field. This is a character array. And for example, let's say our line data is this. It is passed in buffer. Then this load function will split these value into column, the 4 column, and 4 column is assigned into S field array. And if there is any error, then it will return zero value, which is fail, and we simply count the error. And if error count reach a maximum number, which is 5, then we stop loading the data. Else, we compare student ID and the student ID provided by the user. If both values are same, then we copy student details into a structure variable here. The ID will be copied here, ID, first name, last name, and the faculty. And at last, we close the file pointer and return pass. And this will end the loop, while loop. And let's say there is no student ID found in the system, then it will reach until the end of the file. And after that, we simply close file pointer and return fail. Let's discuss load student value function. This function is very important. I will try to explain in detail. In this function, there are two parameters. The first one is character pointer line, and second one is character pointer s field array. So this is array of character, and this whole is pointed to that array. And character delim variable is to define delimiter of the data. So here we have comma, and line equal to null. It means there is no data in the line, and we simply return fail. And this condition will remove a special character from the end of the line. If there is /r or /n, then we replace it by null terminator. And this is another character pointer, and we will initialize this by value line. And this is variable to indicate index of the array, FLD variable. And in quote is a flag variable to identify there is a quote in the data. So for example, initially this value is false. So for example, here in the data, if the loop is inside this quote, then the value of that variable will be true. And this is the variable CS to hold the value of each character of the line. And initially, we assign the first element of S field array by the variable CS TPR, which is the value of whole line. So initially, the value of this array will be whole line. And inside the while loop, we will loop through the each character of the line till the end of that line. So this will define the end of the line. And inside the while loop, we will check whether the character is quote or character is delimiter, that is comma. If not, then we simply move to next character by incrementing pointer. So this part I will try to explain you visually. Let me split my screen. I will open my Excel sheet to explain you this whole loop process. Okay, this is my Excel sheet. I have pre-filled all the data here. So for example, let's say this is CPTR is our variable here. And this is the address of that variable. We know this variable is a pointer. So we represent this variable by the address here. And our number of column in the data is 4. And the content of the pointer is this. For example, I'm taking the first row of this data, this Alice John computer science. So first name is Alice, second name is Jones, and faculty is computer science, and student ID is 10001. And I have written all this data vertically, and there are total 41 character. Okay, and this is in quote variable. The initial value is false, and this is FLD variable, and this is the array S field. Okay, so let's say, and this is the example this I have written here. Let's say initially the S field array is assigned with whole line of the value. So the initial value of S field is this. Okay, and now we reach to first loop inside the while loop, and the value of CS is comma here, quote, sorry, quote. And we will check the condition. It is not this quote is not, obviously it is not a null terminator, and the value of FLD is also less than student column number. So FLD is 0 here, the student column number is 4. So this condition is true. So we will then loop will go inside, And in this if else condition, here CS equal to quote. This is true, right? The CS is quote. Then it will go to another if else condition. If not equal to in quote, so the value of in quote is false. So this statement will give you true value. Okay. Then we will assign s field array by a next character of the line. So initially it is assigned from the beginning, but here we are assigning by the next character. We are skipping the quote here. So here the value of s field will be like this. So there will not be any quote. So it will assign from the next character. And then the loop will go here, this line. So this else condition will not be there. The first one is true, then we'll go to here, and encode value will be true here. So it will this encode flag will become true, and this represent that we already identify the first quote here. Okay, and now definitely this if else will not be true. Now we increment the pointer by 1. So before we are here, now we move to this. Okay. And again, the character, the value will be 1. And it will check both if and this condition. It do not match. Okay. Because the one is not quote and one is not comma. So similarly, it will loop through up to here. So 1, 0, it will loop here, it will loop here, loop, loop. Okay, and when it routes to loop 6, let's say here, the CS value is again quote, right? The CS value is quote here. Then this condition will be true again. And it will go here and it will check not equal to in quote. We know that the quote value is false. I mean, in quote value is true. Then this statement will be false. Then it will go to else statement here. Then it will replace there. This line will replace that quote by null terminator here. So this quote will become null terminator. Okay, and here we will reset the value of encode variable. So from true, it will become again false. Okay, and now the pointer move to this line. So let's say pointer is here, then the character value is comma, right? And one thing here, when we assign this value, when we assign this character pointer by null terminator, here the value of first array will be complete. I mean, this encode value will be replaced by terminator. So null terminator means end of the character, right? So the first element of the array will be 1, 0, 0, 0. So next, the next character will be here comma, right? And comma means it will not meet first condition. It will go to else if condition here. So here character is delete, which is comma, and encode is false, means this will be true. So what does it define? It define like we are inside, we are outside this encode values. So let's say if our loop encounter this comma, then we must consider this as a data, not as a delimiter. So that value, that flag is true means we are inside this code. So we must not consider this as a delimiter. If that flag is false, then we are here. I mean, our loop is outside this code and we must consider this comma as a delimiter. Okay. So here we consider as a delimiter. Here again, we will replace this comma by null terminator, sorry. And we will increment the variable of FLD, okay, and then we'll assign this next element of array by remaining character. So here in line 11, after the 7th loop, the FLD value will be 1, right? And the value of S field and which is second element of S field, will be after this quote, after this comma. So this is the process. Okay. So now we already completed reading the first column. First column is done. And similarly, it will read second column. Okay. Here again, it will encounter this code and it will become like this. And finally, after at this line, I think, yeah, at this line, the value of S will be here. The value of S field 1 will be Alice. Okay, so this is the process to loop through the each and every character and identify the code and identify the delimiter. I hope you understood the concept. Okay, and after reading the data and splitting the whole column and assigning value into this S field array, finally we will check the number of column we read. If FLD value, this FLD variable, this is the counter of the column in the data. If this value is uh, greater than number of column in the file, or it is less than number of column in the file, then we'll return fail. Okay, otherwise we'll return pass. Okay, so this is the end of load student value function. Let's discuss read books function and load books value function. These functions are very similar to um, get student ID function and load student value function. Only difference here is inside get student ID, we are interested with only one row of data. So we try to find the student ID provided by the user in the file and get the student information and save that value into the array. So that's all. But in read book function, we have to read all the book information. Let's say there are 1,000 rows in the data file, then we have to read all 1,000 rows and save it into the array to display later. Now let me go through the function read books. Let me expand this one. To store books data, I have created dynamic array BK. It is the array of dynamic array of books structure. It is defined under utility header file here, books structure variable, and this is the books structure. And the reason I created dynamic array is the number of books data in the library is not fixed. So we might add a couple of books information later. So to store the dynamic number of books data, we have to create dynamic array. And also before loading the data and saving the value into the array, we have to allocate memory of dynamic array. So for that, we need number of rows that we are going to load. So to count the number of rows, I created another function, get row count function. So this will loop through the file line by line, and it will count total number of rows in the file, and it will return that value and assign it to the variable bk size. And I'm decrementing this variable by 1 because it will count header information as well, and we are not saving header information into the array. So I decremented that value by 1. And this is the syntax to allocate memory for dynamic array. And let's say we have 100 books information, then this will allocate 100 allocate memory for 100 elements of this book array. And this rewind function will simply rewind the cursor of the file at the beginning, because this row count function will move cursor to the end, and this will rewind at the beginning. And other part is same. There isn't any difference. The only difference here is after adding value into dynamic array, we increment the pointer. So this is the process of adding value into dynamic array. And after adding all the data, I rewind the pointer of this dynamic array back to the initial point, because after adding the last element, the pointer will remain at last element. So when we try to access this bk variable, we always get last value. So to get the value from the beginning, we have to rewind pointer back to initial position. And this is done by this line. And at last, we simply close the file pointer and return total number of books loaded into the system. And similarly, load books value function is exactly same as a load student value function here. So nothing different, all is same. I hope you understood the concept of loading CSV data into the system.